Hello again, and happy springtime to you, my Rouse's Point Rodins, my mini Michelangelos, my teeny Berninis. Now, the reason that I mention Rodin, Michelangelo, and Bernini is because they are three of the greatest sculptors of all time. And I got a feeling, a big feeling, that the next great sculptor is going to come from right here in Rouse's Point Elementary. And why do I think that? Because you have something that none of those sculptors had. You've got model magic clay. Just think about what Michelangelo could have done if he had model magic clay. Now, before we get started, we have to decide what we're going to make. And since it's springtime, I thought, let's make something fun and cheerful. How about we make a bunny? Is it an Easter bunny? Is it a 4th of July bunny? A Halloween bunny? Is there ever a bad time of year for bunny? I don't think so. And if you agree with me, we'll get started now. And the first thing that we have to do is take our clay and divide it up into 3 equal parts. Now, when I say we're going to break our clay into 3 even pieces, I don't mean we're going to break 1, 2, 3, and then have a little bit of clay left over. I mean that we're going to use all of our clay and divide it into 3 even parts. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it into the shape of maybe like a little hot dog. Then I'm going to break 1 piece off and then take the last piece and just break it in half. Now, they all look like they're about the same size, but I can't really tell for sure until they're all the same shape. So I'm going to roll it in my hands until it's a nice, perfect sphere or a ball. I'm going to do that with all 3, and hopefully they'll all be about the same size. Well, they look pretty close to being the same size to me. And if you want to know whether they look like they're all the same size, take a look and ask yourself, is this one bigger or smaller than this and this? If you can't tell whether they're bigger or smaller, then guess what? They're probably about the same size. Once I've done this, I have the clay for his head, I have the clay for his body, and I have the clay for everything else that I need, including his ears, his legs, and his little arms. So his head is already finished. Now I'm going to take another piece of clay and I'm going to shape it into the shape of his body. And the way that I'm going to do that is make it shaped sort of like an egg. It's already round, so all I have to do is roll it on the table. And if I roll one end and I press down on this end a little bit more than this end is going to get smaller. I want the whole thing to be shaped kind of like an egg. So instead of just rolling out flat like this, so it becomes an oval, just an elongated tube, I don't want that. You know what an egg is shaped like? I'm going to roll it out and I'm going to press down just on one end, not the middle, just on one end. And when I do, it's going to be shaped kind of like an egg. It's bigger on the bottom, it's smaller on the top. Once I have this shape, I'm going to pinch the top of it all the way around so that it's flat, sort of like a little suction cup. Can you see how it's flat now? I just went all the way around and pinched just a little bit to make it flat. Well, now the head and the body are both complete. I just put them together. And there's his head and his body. I'm going to set this aside for a little bit. I'm going to take my last piece of clay and I'm going to break it right in half. When I take this piece, I'm going to set my extra piece off to the side. I'm going to break it in half again. What I'm working on right now are his feet. I'm going to take each piece and roll into a little ball. I want them both to be about the same size. This one looks a little bit bigger, so I'm going to break a little piece off and go like that. Now I've got 2 little balls of clay that are the same size. All I have to do is roll them out until they look like little baby carrots. Just roll it on the table a little bit. They don't have to be real long, maybe about 1 inch long. And once they're shaped like little baby carrots, I'm going to press down to make them a little bit flatter. Now these are going to be his feet, so I'm not going to press down on them too flat. If you press down too flat, they're going to look like little duck feet. They're going to be big and flat, and that's not what a bunny's feet are like. They're kind of fat and fluffy. So I'm just pressing it down enough so that they're still kind of thick, but they're flat enough so that they don't roll around. Just pressing it down a little bit. And after that, I'm going to take the 2 pieces of clay and I'm going to have them touch right here so it makes sort of like a letter V. And just like that, if I put my bunny on top, my bunny now has his head, his body, and his feet. Nice big fluffy feet. And this is all finished for now, so I'm going to take my last piece of clay and I'm going to break it in half again. I want both pieces to be about the same size. So the way that you make sure that the same size is to make them the same shape. They look like they're about the same size and shape. I'm going to set one of them off to the side. Now, with this small little sphere, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to break it in half again. Now, once I break it in half, I want to make sure that the 2 pieces are the same size again. I'm going to roll them into little baby carrots once again. They should both be about the same size and about the same shape. Again, they're only about 1 inch long, and they're about as big around as a crayon. Maybe a little bit fatter, but about the size of a crayon. Now, to make sure that they attach well to the body, I'm going to stand them up and I'm going to press it down just a little bit so that it's flat on one side and round on the other side. This side, the top of it, where his little hand is still round, but the other side is flat. So it would sit perfectly well on a table. I'm going to do that to both sides. I'm going to set it down and I'm going to press down so that it's flat on one side and round on the other. You can see how it's kind of flat, but I'm going to pinch it just a little bit, just a tiny little bit, all the way around. So it's almost like a suction cup on one side. And now my bunny has got 2 little arms. When I put them on his body, I want to make sure that I put them right up at the top of his body, not in the middle. When you think about it, your arms don't come out of the middle of your body. They come all the way up to the top of the body. So that's where I'm going to put this little arm, right up at the top, almost touching the head. I'm going to do it, of course, to both sides. And now my bunny has got 2 big fluffy feet and 2 little arms. What does he need to look like a bunny? Well, he needs big floppy ears, of course. So I'm going to take my last piece of clay, pinch it in half, make sure that both pieces of clay are the same size. Looks pretty good to me, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to roll it out like a little baby carrot. It's about 1 inch long. It's pretty much the same size and shape as the little arms that I just made, but this time I'm going to pinch it, again, a little bit flat. I'm not making it any longer. I just want to pinch it out so that it doesn't roll around. Don't make it paper thin, just enough that it's flattened out. You can still see that it's got some thickness to it, but it's a little bit flatter. Again, I'm going to take one end and I'm going to pinch it so that it's a little bit flat, almost like a little suction cup, just on one end. You can see how one end is a little bit flat, comes to a little bit of a, gets a little bit smaller, and it's fatter in the middle, and then smaller on the end. Once I've done this, I'm going to put it on his head, near the back of his head. If you look at him from the side, you can see it's a little bit closer to the back. This is the front of his body. You can see his little feet sticking out this way. So this is the back of his head, and the clay for his ear is closer to the back than the front. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I've already got it pinched out. You can see it's a little bit smaller here. It's a little bit fatter in the middle and a little bit smaller here. And I want to take one end and I'm going to pinch it all the way around so it's like a little suction cup. And when I do that, I put it on his head, and my bunny now has got two floppy ears, two little arms, two big floppy feet. And I'm done with the colored part of my clay. It's time to put his face on and his belly and his big cottontail, and I'm going to do that with white clay. For the rest of my bunny, I'm going to need white clay. And if I have a piece of clay that's about the size of, oh, I don't know, a grape, maybe the size of a peanut M&M, I'm going to break it in half and then take each half and break it in half again so that I have four pieces that are all about the same size. And if I take this little piece of clay and I press it down flat, remember that it's already like a little ball of clay, but if I press it down flat so that it's flat on one side and round on the other, almost as if I took a little white ball of clay and I cut it right down the middle. It's flat on the side that's resting on my finger, but you can still see that it's round on the top. I'm going to take that piece of clay and I'm going to put it on my bunny's face, and I'm going to put it right near the bottom, not right in the middle of his face, but closer to the bottom. And then I'm going to press it down a little bit so that half circle of white clay is right in the middle of his face. That's going to be his little muzzle. Now I'm going to take another piece of clay and I'm going to flatten it out. This time I'm flattening it out almost like a coin, as thin as maybe a penny. Once I've got it flattened out, I'm going to set these off to the side. Once I have it flattened out, I'm going to pinch one end to a little bit of a point. And when I do that, you can see how it's shaped sort of like a flat Easter egg. Now this flat Easter egg, that's going to be his belly. So if I take that flat Easter egg and I put it right here, now my bunny has got a white belly. I'm going to take these last two pieces, I'm going to roll them out again like little baby carrots, except this time, of course, they're much smaller. I'm going to flatten them out. I want to have the ends a little bit smaller and the middle a little bit fatter. They're kind of like this. And again, these are, these are about as thick as a penny. So they're pretty thin. And they're shaped kind of like a long, skinny football. Once I have these, they're going to be the inside of my bunny's ear. There's one. Now I take the other piece of clay. I'll turn it around here so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to put it right here. Now my bunny has everything except a white cotton tail, so I'm going to take another piece of clay. This part's easy enough. You just roll it into a little ball, and you put it not near the middle of his back, but right at the bottom. That'll also help him keep his balance. And now my bunny has got a white belly, he's got a white nose, he's got white on the inside of his ears, and he's got a white cotton tail. He's almost finished. I'm going to take a little bit, just a teeny tiny bit of blue clay. I don't need very much at all. You can see how tiny it is. And as small as it is, I'm going to make it even tinier. I'm going to break it in half. And I'm going to take these two pieces of blue clay and I'm going to put them right above his white muzzle. Not in the middle of his head, but they're right in the middle of his head. But they're almost touching the muzzle. In fact, I think they are just about touching his white muzzle. The very last thing that I have to do is to take a little teeny tiny piece of pink clay. You can barely see it, it's so tiny. And I'm going to put it on the white muzzle near the top. It's not right in the middle of the muzzle, it's closer to the top. And after I've done that, my bunny is finally complete. Well, here he is. I had a great time working on this project with you. I hope you have a great time as well. And remember, you're no bunny till some bunny loves you. Stay safe. We'll see you.